Welcome to this ABC Radio National podcast. For more on other entertaining and informative programs, listen after the end for details. But right now, here's your podcast, which we hope you enjoy.
You're listening to ABC Radio National and some lively keyboard playing from someone I'd now like you to picture. So, a smiling American black man wearing a straw bow tie? Aunt Gladys at a family Christmas knees-up? Well, no, this pianist is different, and that's what the Science Show is about this week, a special on a brain condition that's preoccupied us and our sister programme All in the Mind for a couple of years now. Wendy Barnaby goes to the Royal Society in London, but first she goes to the theatre.
Derek's got the most fantastic ability to play the piano, to make music.
Play the piano and make music?
Yeah, and to communicate through music, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Even though you find it quite hard to do lots of everyday things.
How long have you known Derek?
We've known each other for
a year.
25
25 years.
A quarter of a century.
Quarter of a century.
Yes, of course, it's most of Derek's life, and it's over half of my life now, so it is a long time.
Derek Paravacini finds it hard to have a one-on-one conversation. But when he plays the piano, he becomes a different man. I met Derek and his long-time mentor, Adam Ockelford, in one of the dressing rooms at the Savoy Theatre in London. Derek was about to take to the stage in an evening of performances by people with autism. Adam's now the Professor of Music at Roehampton University in London. He took Derek on at 5 as a piano pupil. It was obvious even at that age that Derek's talent was prodigious. He had perfect pitch, he was addicted to the piano, he could already play what he heard. His autism meant that his behaviour could be wild when he was frustrated, and his blindness didn't make things any easier. But he had a supportive family and a resourceful and steadfast nanny who structured his days and gave him the routine he needed. Derek couldn't understand speech, although he could mimic it perfectly. But he learned to communicate through music. Adam described Derek's abilities.
Derek and music are inseparable. I mean, you are music made manifest, Derek. I mean,
yes.
When you see Derek play, every fibre of his body is engaged with the pulse and the rhythm and the life. And so I couldn't imagine you without music, Derek.
What is the mix, do you think, that produces this amazing talent in the end?
And the mix, can you remember what it is?
Yeah. Do you want me to say, Derek?
Yes, please, Adam.
I think it's to do with when you were very, very little, Derek, when you were first born in those first few months. For some reason, your brain latched onto sound and patterns in sound. And while it wasn't quite so good at dealing with words and language, it obviously was phenomenally interested, your brain, in abstract patterns of sound in music. And of course, all of us are surrounded 24/7 virtually by musical sounds. And so I think Derek's baby brain, looking for something to make sense of the world, because of course you couldn't see Derek, he didn't understand much language, music was the answer. And it was that motivation to get hold of music and to control it and to reproduce it on the little keyboard you had that I think drove you. It's the motivation, the passion for music that's the most important thing.
Passion for music, yeah.
At 29, Derek can't tell his left hand from his right, and he still doesn't understand a lot of what's going on around him. But music's opened up new worlds for him. He became an international celebrity when he was 9, when his performance at the Barbican in London with the Royal Philharmonic Pops Orchestra was picked up by the media. As a result, he was on television in many countries, including Australia, and he's gone on to feature in countless other TV programmes, articles and performances. He's been described as a genius. How does he feel about that?
Feel all right about it, yeah. As a genius, yes.
It's a nice thing people say about you, isn't it?
Yes.
To say you're a genius, yeah.
A genius.
I think there's different ways of measuring genius. One way is, does the person have a lasting impact on humankind? I I guess in some ways Derek does. I mean, he's been heard by millions of people. He's recognised in the street. Yes. And on your website, Derek, you get lots of lovely messages saying how fantastic your playing is and how moving people find it.
How moving people find it, yes.
So I think genius is something history has to judge. If people are still listening to your music in 50 years, then we'll say, yes, Derek.
Derek, what does music mean to you?
Is it the music means when I play the piano, isn't it?
Yes, that's what music.
When I play the piano, that's what music means, isn't it?
Yes.
And what do you like about it, Derek?
The clapping and... Is it the cheering?
So you like people reacting to your playing?
To my playing, yes.
Derek's extraordinarily skillful piano playing makes him an autistic savant. A recent meeting in London brought together an international group of researchers to try to understand more about talent and autism. Uta Frith is Emeritus Professor in Cognitive Development at University College London. She's an expert in Asperger's syndrome, in which people behave as though they have autism but don't have problems with language, and in autism itself.
In relation to autism, it's really perhaps because of the film Rain Man that almost everybody is now aware of this possibility of being autistic, being very socially isolated, not able to communicate, having many very limited capacities, and yet at the same time possibly have some absolutely outstanding skill. Now, in the case of Rain Man, of course, it was the prodigious memory that stood out, and people remember this and ask, how is it possible? What has it actually got to do with autism? And the big question, what does it tell us about our mind and our brain? Now, we've been aware of the savant talent for a very long time, for over 100 years. And yet scientists have made very, very little progress in understanding it, in understanding how the brain would produce these savant skills. So there are some theories about this already, about how one might explain, first of all, why the skills arise and then how they actually work. So there are several theories, and it seemed a good idea to let all these proponents speak to each other at this discussion meeting so that they could perhaps confront again this great mystery and improve their theories, possibly even come to a kind of cooperative research plan which will maybe lead to even newer theories, those that haven't been thought about, because none of the existing theories is capable of explaining the phenomenon in any satisfactory way.